morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on when or where you're watching this from. Welcome to the latest episode of the Code Crown podcast. We're still filling in while I'm getting my move all finalized. This will be the last video, possibly. I still have to cover Digimon Dreamers after all, but this should be the final video in this space. So I've got Cyber Sleuth on behind me just for funsies, but we're going to be looking at another tier list because those again have been asked for. You guys seem to like when I did the tier lists before. I'm hoping the one that went out in place of a Ghost Game review, because there wouldn't have been any this past Sunday from the time you're watching this, but you guys seem to like them, and I thought this one would be nice and straightforward. It's not as finangly, or we're looking at Digivices, right? And it's basically got them all here except for the Vital Bracelet, right? Because Ghost Game hasn't finished yet. So I don't know if I should just do my own ranking on the Digivice V based on its functionality in the real world, or maybe we'll look at something like this again after Ghost Game ends and we can see how how that shakes out and what the anime version of this can do versus the real world version. But my name is AJ. I am your host for this. I come complete with goggles and Digivice, or Digivice if you prefer. But we are going to be looking at a Digivice tier list, and again we have our usual rankings here. So we have our S rank, we have our A rank, B, C, D, and I've added this in not red because there's a couple of Digivices here that I'm familiar with, but I haven't read the manga that they're associated to, so I haven't really got a full grasp of their feature set. And while I could have just cheated and looked up Wikimon and etc., I wanted to go into this fresh, right? So I wanted to go into this as honestly as I could. So we have, you can see here, like we have the Aptly Driver, we've got the D3, we've got the D-Arc, we've got the one from D-Cyber, which I should just go ahead and put into not red because I haven't. We've got the Twin Burst from Next. This actually replaces the Digivice IC in the Next manga, where in Digimon Savers this evolves into this. So yeah, so it's got the Twin Burst, we've got the Cross Loader, we've got the Darkness Loader, we've even got the Cyber Sleuth Goggle Digivice, which I am we'll talk about that. We've got the Detector, we've got Karata's Digivice, then we've got another manga one. Oh god, I can't even think of the name of the manga for this one. So but I haven't read it anyway, so we're just gonna pop it in there. You can get it out of the way. Then we have the 2020 Digivice, we have the Phone Digivice from Kizuna, and we have the Biohybrid device. So a good selection. Again, really the only thing that's missing is the Digivice V, but that's fine. We've even got the V-Tamer Digivice, which is cool. So yeah, I think we'll just jump into it. We'll go in order based on what's here on the list. I won't try and go, oh, Adventure, 02, etc, blah, 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 blah. We'll just go by the order that's here, and, cool. So, starting with the Aptly Drive, I think it's a really cool Digivice. I think it was really a natural evolution from the Crossloader. I do like the idea of, realizing the Digimon via the use of chips. I can understand why it wouldn't be for everybody, putting the chip into the device. But I think it's a nice Digivice. I think it's fun, it's different enough because a lot of the Digivices do look kind of samey, they're like a brick with 3 buttons, or they're like, a rectangle with 3 buttons. So I think it's different enough, but I do think the evolution of the Aptly Drive Duo is actually a much better Digivice. And actually, I think that's what we'll do. For Digivices that evolve, we'll cover the original and then go to the evolve form. So the Aptly Drive itself, I think it's a C, right? And then I think the Aptly Drive Duo is like a is a high B, because it does everything that the regular Aptly Drive does, but The Tamer also has the ability to add their own energy into the Digivice and power up their partner or buddy in the case of Atmon. So I think it's really cool. I love the Aptly Drive as a concept. The Duo just looks like it genuinely looks like an evolved version of it, you know, taking the concept and making it better. So yeah, so I think if the regular Aptly Drive is a C, then doing what it does and then adding functionality to it should bump it up the scale. So a B is there. The D3 then, and I almost feel like I should start with the Adventure Digivice for this, because again, we've seen that this Digivice does evolve into this one. So let's start with the one that everybody's familiar with, right? Let's start with this. It has holy powers that can purge black gears. It has a built-in radar that can locate other Digivices within a certain range. And it's a tool to assist with evolution. That's kind of it, right? So it doesn't have a whole lot of functionality. And I don't feel like I should give it points just because it's the first one. I think you sort of need to look at the skill set here, you know, as plainly as it is. So it purges darkness, and it has a radar. Or oh, I don't think it's necessarily a bad Digivice, and I do like the form factor of it. I do like the design. I do like the clip on the back and seeing how it was used, like Joe and Mimi putting it on their bag, you know. I think Takaru even put it on like the side pocket of his bag. You know, anyone else with a belt clip, different things. And so I think I would rank it higher than the Aptly Drive. But I don't think it's like a B level Digivice. I don't think it's an A level Digivice. Although I do like the form factor of it, but I do think other Digivices look nicer. So I might change my mind on this. But in saying that, the D3 has an awesome form factor. It has that functionality, but it also interacts then with Digimentals or Digi-Eggs. Which is an odd thing to call it when we also know that Digi-Eggs are things that Digimon hatch from. But so that's why I nearly said Digitama. I couldn't think of the word Digimental for the life of me. But you know, it interacts with the Digitama. It keeps the functionality from the Adventure Digivice, but again, it does more. It has the built-in radar. It can presumably purge darkness similar to this. And then it interacts with... It opens digiports, which is something the original couldn't. You needed a D3 to open a digiport. And because it interacts with the Digimentals via the D terminal, it to bypass the evolution lockdown of the Dark Towers. I do think it's better, but I don't think the D3 has a better form factor than the Aptly Drive Duo, so I think I'd bump it up to a B. It's, you know, so it's interesting. Our first four are sort of the inverse of this. The Tamers Digivice, I like the card slot. I like the idea of scanning scanning the cards and, you know, giving your partners power-ups that way, or that being how evolution worked with the blue cards and the red cards. It's a form factor that also looks like it could be an evolved version of this. And this is what I meant earlier on. A lot of the Digivices do look the same. They're either a rectangle with 3 buttons, or they're a square with 3 buttons, right? Or a circle with 3 buttons. They all do look. You know, it wouldn't be until Frontier when we start getting drastically differently designed Digivices. You know, if you said to someone who didn't watch the show, yeah, this Digivice turns into this one, I think they'd go, yeah, that checks out. because it is meant to retain that similarity, right? And that also carries over with the V-Tamer Digivice, but we'll get to that in a second. So I like I would give the Tamers Digivice a B. It's a high B. I like it more than the Aptly Drive Duo functionality wise. I do like the key ring thingy on the top of it, so it's got a nice aesthetic to it. It is a higher, it does look better than the Adventure Digivice. It also looks like, like that. Those Digivices wouldn't look out of place together. And they do sort of look like they come from the same family of technology, right? The iPhone 4, 5, and 6 or something. They look like they're in the same family of technology. And other Digivices, not so much. The Twin Burst from Next, I love the design of it. I love the connectivity of the real life version. But I like V-Pets. That's but I don't like that in Next it was the upgrade to the Digivice IC. And I get they had to promote the actual real world version of it. I get it. Toyetic tie-in. I kind of get that. But as much as I love the form factor and the whole L and OR functionality and you needing the two to connect and everything else, it's not one of my favorites, and I think I would just be the first one I rank as a D. Yeah, look, I get it. This probably has a lot of its own fans, but it's not for me. I like the idea in concept with the left and right and the connectivity. But that's about it. Yeah, sorry, I guess. So then the crossloader. And I guess at the same point we'll talk about the darkness loader, right? Because they're, for all intents and purposes, they're the same device. The show didn't really show that the darkness loader did things that the regular crossloader didn't. It was just, this was the version of the crossloader that the 7 generals used. It was yeah, it was just, it was made using the data from the crossloader, which Dark Knight had gotten through Nene using the black crossloader and things like that. So it's not, I think it's just, it fuses bad guys compared to this, which fuses anything, right? So the crossloader, I like the design. I like that it's a microphone. You can see that from the top. I kind of wish Cross Wars had sort of stuck to the more music themes it had going between Shoutmon and his microphone and his little earphones or headphones. Greymon actually wears a pair of headphones. They had the Digimelodies at the start, which was how you could find injured Digimon or those who were calling for help and store them inside the device. That's one thing I do love about this, is that you can literally store an army in here and then call it out as needed. Or at least you could until part 3, when the rules changed to not have Taiki's group just be OP and win the battle for everybody. Which is the canon reason why everything changed for part 3 of the show. But it was just so that Taiki wasn't overpowered. It's like, that's a good way of nerfing your previous cast. And I think it's a better way of doing it than 0-2 did, where they just took Ultimate Evolution away for contrived reasons and then was even more contrived in the way it gave it back. So yeah, the Digimelody function, being able to load code crowns, being able to load Digimemories and summon the spirits of legendary Digimon from the past, I think was a really cool concept. So I'm gonna give the crossloader an A, and it's not because this is the Code Crown podcast. It's certainly nothing to do with that. There's no nepotism going on, I assure you. But I just think functionality form, functionality. It connects to other cross-loaders for double crosses. It's just, and then you've got the wheel and the button in the middle for selecting your actions, and that's one thing I love. Like, this is a very toyetic franchise, right? And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But what I do love about, like, the cross-loader and the Aptly Drive, and to an extent the D-Arc, is the show shows you how the functionality should work, right? So the evolution sequences for Cross Wars, you would see row of Digimon come up, and Taiki would use the thing and circle through what he wants and then push in on the button. And those were the monsters he was choosing for that particular battle. And I think that's really cool. And then the slots on the side for the different memory cards that represent Digi-Memories and, of course, Code Crowns. It's that sort of on-screen functionality that translates into the real-life version of it. Well, okay, maybe not the US release. That was certainly a thing, wasn't it? The US release. But the original toy, which I've shown off on this channel years and years ago, I don't have it on hand because it's in the new it's in my new accommodation, so sorry. But yeah, no, I really just do like that its form and its function and how well those were shown on screen versus what the toy actually does. And you know, for like most of it lines up 1-to-1, so well done, Crossloader. Darkness Loader is a step below that, I think. It's effectively the same device, but doesn't seem to have as much of the functionality as the original model. So much so that I'm actually going to rank the Darkness Loader down below the Aptly Drive standard. I get what they were going for with the Darkness Loader, but I like, enemies that have Digivices, but I don't think enough was done with it. So, oh well. It looks cool though. You know, it looks a bit edgelordy, but that's probably why it's not down here, to be honest. I think its aesthetic saves it from just being a D rank. Then we have the V-Tamer Digivice. The D1, if you will. If this is the D2, and this is the D3, this would be the D1 and S. Like, and there's a lot of my V-Tamer bias in that, because I think V-Tamer is a fantastic manga. But I love wrist-based anything, right? Like in Sentai, whether it's wrist-based Henshin devices or wrist-based Digivices, anything. I love the wrist aesthetic. It definitely looks like a prototype version of this, but you know, for what this can do in terms of feeding and raising and all of that, and just looking badass, I would love to have one of these. I would love for them. I know they probably won't. I don't know how much money they'd make on it because of, right? But I would love for them to do one of these in a shell for one of these, right? I mean, you don't change anything, right? You make the middle button defunct, right? And then you just put your dim cards in on the top side, right? And that's your A and B, right? But I would love a Vital Bracelet with a V-Tamer Digivice aesthetic. That has always been my favorite Digivice. So yeah, prototype model, production A, production B, production C, right? It definitely, that's what I'm talking about. They all look like they're within the same family of devices, and that's pretty cool. So then we get to Cyber Sleuth and the Goggle Digivice. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a real wink and a nod, making the goggles and the Digivice the same thing. But the Digivice, it just lets you log into Eden. And it said in Cyber Sleuth that, you know, Digivices in that universe, because they're not what we know a Digivice to be, they are just tools to log into Eden. They aren't anything to like assist with evolution. They're not. Although you wouldn't think that with Nokia's whole raising her phone into the sky and, you know, Omegamon happening. But Speaking of Cyber Sleuth, it is currently, maybe the sale will be over by the time you guys watch this, but it's currently $20 on sale. Go buy it if you haven't played those games already. $20 for 2 games. You're in for a treat, and they're big, long Shin Megami Tensei RPGs. You'll have fun. Go do that. But doesn't have functionality outside of logging into Eden. So as much as I like the aesthetic of goggles being a Digivice, I think I'm gonna pop them down here on D, because yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So now the Digivice IC. Let's see. Form factor I think is cool. I like the little hook thing, so you can put like a string or a lanyard through it and hang it around your neck or whatever, like they did in the show. It's a simple design. It's a rectangle with 3 buttons. You can store your Digimon in it, and it's used to absorb the human potential that triggers evolution. And that's so it's just this, except your willpower that feeds this is tangible. The only thing we haven't really seen this do is expel dark energy, right? And that's because Savers wasn't really built like that. It wasn't that kind of show. So it stores Digimon, and it has good form factor, and it physically absorbs your human potential, your Digisoul, in order to aid evolution. Other than that, it's kind of basic. I think I'll put it here. Look, don't get me wrong, I love Savers, and Savers is my favorite show. Although if Ghost Game keeps up this trajectory, Ghost Game is going to supersede that and Applemon the way it's going. But I think it's just too basic. Like it's a brick with buttons. It's a brick with buttons. It's too basic. But I think it's a high D because I do still like it more than the Twin Burst, and I still like it more than the Cyber Sleuth Goggle Digivice. So then we have the Detector from Frontier. They used to be phones. That's and they could store. Did they store Digimon energy? Isn't that how that worked? That when a Digimon was destroyed, its data stream went into the device. So, I mean, that was neat. And then it facilitated human beast and fusion evolution. So, form factor, it certainly looks nicer than the... Oh, sorry, hold on. I probably shouldn't even be touching that yet, because I did say we'd look at Digivices that evolve and then move on. So, keep everything I said in mind for Frontier, right? That still stands, and I'll come back to it in a sec. So the Digivice IC in Savers evolves into the Digivice Burst, which definitely looks like a evolve form of that. It does everything this does, but it also facilitates burst mode. I like the design. It is still just a rectangle with 3 buttons. But I like the little sensor bar on the side here to for you to do your burst soul. Your burst mode Digisoul charge, whatever. And it's got a nice aesthetic. I think it's got a nicer aesthetic than the basic IC. So I'd probably put it between the Aptly Drive and the Darkness Loader. Like, it's nothing mind-blowing, but it looks nice. It's got a good aesthetic to it. Right, so favorite show, some of my lowest ranking Digivices, just in terms of form, function, and form and function basically. So yeah, back to Frontier then. Data absorption, evolution, and a nicer aesthetic than the Digivice IC and the Digivice Burst. I actually do like this, but I don't know if I like this design more than the Adventure Digivice. Oh, I kind of do. I wish I. Oh, I think it might be a low B. I think that's probably a good place for it. Right, and then Karata's Digivice. Karata doesn't evolve in the show. I think he just uses it to control the Gizmon and the Gizmon XT. Or I think he used this. Yeah, sorry, he used this to facilitate an evolution of Gizmon to Gizmon XT. But that was kind of it. It wasn't like the biohybrid device, which let him evolve for himself. I like the aesthetic of it. The sort of the wire coming out of it gives it this real man-made feel, like this Digivice was made in a lab. Now, technically these two were as well, as was this, but there's a real sort of, you know, cobbled together, you know, man-made feel to this to go along with Karata's man-made Digimon. So I do like it for that reason, and it looks a lot better than the regular Digivice for the show. I think Karata's and even the biohybrid devices look better than the regular IC. But because it was just used for straightforward evolution, I would it looks better than the Darkness Loader, but I actually, do you know what? I think I'll put Karata's Digivice here, and I'll actually move the Darkness Loader down. I think that's probably the most fair. Yeah, that kind of works. Wow, so I ended up putting the Darkness Loader down in D after all. The aesthetic really didn't save it, because I think I preferred the aesthetic of the Karata Digivice. This isn't an evolution of that I'm aware of. It's a completely different model with a different function, so we'll get to that. We won't come to this straight away. Then we have the Digivice 2020. And great form factor. I don't like that it doesn't have a clip on the back, like the original Adventure Digivice. But it's a great form factor. It's a great design. It does long distance hologram telecommunication. It's got the map functionality, that radar stuff that the original one has, with, you know, within a certain distance. You know, facilitates the evolution. It does everything this does and a lot more. I actually think I like this version of the Digivice better than this version. Like, there's always going to be a nostalgia for me to this design, and I'm always going to look fondly at it. But I do like the Digivice 2020 that much better. I'm actually going to pop it up here. And I know that's probably going to shock a lot of people given my opinions on 2020. But I actually do think that's a really good Digivice. So yeah. Right, so the phone Digivice of Kizuna. Like, I get it, you know. It wasn't replacing the Digivice, it was just running the Digivice power set through the kids' phones. I don't know why. Maybe it's left memory already, but did he ever say why that change was made? Or was it just, this'll look cool and modern because this was being shown in cinemas? That, you know, Taichi would hold up his phone and evolution would happen. Yeah. I don't like the phone Digivice, and I don't like the new goggles. And I know they were experimental goggles as well, and, you know, they only had one scene, but I really don't like this. You know, like, it was one thing in Frontier when their mobile phones became the Digivices, that's one thing. But the mobile phone itself should not be the Digivice or be channeling the Digivice's power. Like, what sort of Wi-Fi link has Koshiro got set up to where these actually communicate? or these in terms of the 02 kids? What sort of weird Wi-Fi connection is that? Considering that we know that this is sitting in a drawer back in Taichi's apartment with his original goggles. Well, probably the goggles from Try, given that Daisuke should still have the ones from 02, but we're never going to address that, so shh. Even though we see Daisuke's kid with those original goggles, shh. You're asking too many questions. So yeah, I like these less than the Cyber Sleuth. Like, Cyber Sleuth has less functionality, but I just just from an aesthetic purpose and from a function purpose, I just don't like the phone Digivice. So that goes bottom of the barrel. And then we get the Bio-Hybrid device, which again looks like it is just an evil version of this. It doesn't look as man-made and hodgepodge together as Karata's one, but I really do like it. Its only real functions that we've ever seen are to facilitate Bio-Hybrid evolution or Hyper-Bio evolution. But I think aesthetically it still looks better than this, and it doesn't look as edgelordy as this one. So I think I'm actually going to place it... Yeah, I think that's actually fitting. Yeah, I think that's actually fitting. And then the Digivice V. We haven't seen enough of Ghost Game. Like, so far, it takes the ideas of this in real life and, you know, anime-fies them to an extent, right? Because you do see, like, the vital things ticking around and the heartbeat stuff. You do see all that, but it doesn't seem to be tied into they went for a jog and evolution happened, which would be fun, but, you know, maybe kind of stupid. Then again, Dreamers is still a thing we have to talk about, so who knows, maybe. But I think I'm quite happy with those rankings. Some results may shock you, others probably not so much. But yeah, if like those are my gut feelings on it, and I present this to you for your discussion and judgment. But with that, I will give thanks to Android 17 Louise, who put this together. If you want to do your own tier maker, you know, if you want to do your own one of these, you can definitely hunt this down on tier maker, and it's by Android 17 Louise. So thank you for this. It's let me put this together to make this content, so thank you. And with that, we are done. So look, thank you all so much again for watching. I know this is a shorter video. Again, I am still, by the time you're watching this, I am going to be in the process of moving, and I've lost my ability to stream at an acceptable level. So those activities are still on hold until I get my new computer, which will be happening at the end of this month. Yippee-ki-yay. So we'll be back with our more formal content going forward, but I hope you like this little extra. And with that, thank you again. Look after yourselves. I will see you back here, however, on Sunday for episode 3 of Digimon Ghost Game, Scribbles. Look after yourselves. Drink your water. Do take care. And I say drink water, but I have this, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Days Blue Pop. I'm going to go have this and maybe get a bit of a sugar rush and play some Metroid. Who knows? But I will see you again. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, please. I'll dance. But just on that, yeah, if we do hit... Tell you what, if we hit 7,000, I'll sing Butterfly. It'll be bad, but I'll sing it as a you know, subscriber goal. And then when we do hit 10k, we will be doing our 12-hour watch along of Digimon Adventure. So there's your goals. At 7k, I'll sing Butterfly, and at 10k, we'll watch Adventure 99 for 12 hours. Oh boy, what have I signed myself up for? Just desperate for love. Please love me. please.